The Microsoft Surface Pro X, such a beautiful device. Who's it for? What is it for? And is it there yet? Let's talk. What is the deal, beautiful people? My name is Ramon.
I am Tawann.
Welcome back to another episode of That's the Lifestyles. Today's topic is one from the camp of Microsoft, where we often do our whoring.
Lots of it.
This is a topic presented by you, sir. The Microsoft Surface Pro X.
Yeah.
And I believe your question was, is it a game changer or still not quite there?
Yeah. Like, so, a lot of what Microsoft has been doing, this is just some baseline or basis as to why I asked what I asked. The last Microsoft computer or tablet, however you want to think of it, that I've had was the RT. It was not by Microsoft. It was just one of the first RT devices that were released, and it was cool. Had the new, I think what was on it
at the time,
eight.
I believe.
8, yes, and it worked good. I was able to do pretty much any and everything that I needed to do. It didn't have your typical or standard Windows look. It was just the tiles.
Yep.
And I was fine with that. And I'm like, okay. And then you kind of delve deep. This may have been around the time when we were just taking off, or roundabout taking off of Lifestyles.
Yes, it was.
And we've just had conversation about the differences between was it the Pro then? Surface Pro then?
Yep, Surface Pro versus Surface RT.
Right. So, and you basically broke down the differences to me, and why what the use cases for RT versus use cases for Pro, what you can do on one that you can't do on the other, basic stuff. So, fast forward, now we're in 2019, 2020, and you have all of this computing power, but in a form factor that is so questionable when it comes to what the device is capable of doing. Like, my thing is, so in a nutshell, can this do what? And I don't want to compare it to my rig, but can it do what a laptop? I'll say a laptop with decent RAM, decent space, like a decent laptop. Can this, in its form factor, do what a decent laptop can do? Hence my question.
Yeah.
Is it a game changer? Is it still,
Okay. So we gotta dissect it. There's a lot in that question.
It's loaded. It's a loaded question.
Is the Surface, is it still quite not there? Surface as a brand, and what you would equate to, you would say the form factor.
Yeah, one part. Yes.
Okay,
Form
so
factor.
Surface was really Microsoft attempting to be a much more modern company, thinking like a modern company, right? You look at Google and Google, they make hardware around very specifics of their software.
Right.
You know, they make hardware to showcase their software. And then you look at Apple. Apple does the same, but to a much deeper degree. In Apple, you know, you would consider them to be controlling the entire stack.
Right.
So from hardware to software and everything in between, Apple controls that all. And then there's Microsoft that's just like neither of the two. So they're trying to align themselves somewhere in between what Google does and what Apple does, and then that'll just catapult them forward into being this yesteryear's giant that can
Right.
compete with the kids these days.
Right. Right.
Surface was made to showcase Windows 8
Right.
because Windows 8 with the tiles was so radical, it was so new. There was no hardware. Touchscreen laptops were around, but they were so far and few and so niche. And here was Microsoft saying, no, this is the future. This is the UI. We're going to clean up the desktop you've been staring at for 20 years and make it look much like the phone you've come to love. You know, these containers and apps, and every app is full screen. And that challenged a lot of people because no matter how small the display you're running a Windows laptop on, people seem to tile their windows. This was Microsoft saying, no, everything runs full screen, and you swipe and you swipe to go to the next app, and there's all these beautiful animations, and people were just like, what the fuck is happening here? What is this?
Literally.
Right? Because a lot of that was kicking and screaming from like my mom and my mom's mom, who this doesn't look like anything I know, and I don't know how to pay the phone bill. Or company A, company B, that's just like, you're confusing the fuck out of my accounting staff with this. Like there was so many complaints from so many different directions because Microsoft serves so many different people. Turns out you can't be nimble and quick on your feet and fast thinking like the kids these days. But whatever. Surface was quite successful for Microsoft. I think it's now like a $1 or $2 billion business for them every year. And it serves as sort of an answer to Apple's MacBooks and MacBook Airs, right?
Right.
Premium products. And evidently enough, your experience of Windows 10 kind of matters on the hardware you experience it on. And although Microsoft has Dell and HP and Lenovo and whoever else out there that's making laptops and whatnot, they're taking it upon themselves to say, hey, if you want the best experience,
Right.
you want to see this shit how it's supposed to be, we made that for you.
Right.
To that point, I will say that my Surface is there. It is a thing. It is so much so that in the last like 3 or 4 years, it's not uncommon for me to look at IT environments and see Surfaces exist. They're at the point now where they're cheap enough, they're reliable enough, and Microsoft is putting a lot of that enterprise way of thinking where they don't change the connectors for the keyboards often, right? This reminds you of Apple, right? You from generation to generation, it's the same charger, it's the same keyboard. So businesses, when they see that type of stuff, they're more likely to, nothing's going to change for me 4 or 5 years from now. I don't have to worry about getting on eBay and paying $600 for a power supply for this laptop no one makes anymore. A lot of that goes out the window. So businesses are like, okay, we can trust Microsoft. Not to say they haven't had their issues with the Surfaces, right? We're at like, what, 7 now? I think we're at Surface 7. But it's a successful product for them.
Right.
It's also a successful product in the conversation where you talk about Microsoft kicking their vendors in the ass. This is the same thing you saw with Google with the Pixel, right? Like, we let you guys do this for so long and you're doing it wrong. Or you could be doing it better. Or literally, just what the fuck are you doing? Fine, I'll do it myself. And then when Google does the Pixel line, now everybody's like, shit, can't make shitty because people are starting to see the phone isn't shitty because Google made a shitty Android operating system. The phone is shitty because I made it shitty. Because people can clearly see that it looks good over there when Google is presenting it without anyone touching it. So I got to get my shit together.
Right.
This is what kind of happened in the Microsoft world. You see this in Lenovo, the Lenovo Yoga series. Them shits are amazing. You see this in a lot of HP's higher up laptops, the Elites. Dell's got some shit up there that's pretty good. All the gaming PCs, and then everything comes with a touchscreen, right? Even though you don't have that Windows 8 heavy touch focused thing going on, somehow Microsoft knew what they were doing, because you couldn't have Windows 10 without Windows 8, and here are the touchscreens. So much so that people in the PC world, when they buy a laptop and it's not a touchscreen, they're like, what the fuck is this? Why is there not a touchscreen on this, right? Never mind, there's nothing to take advantage of it, but whatever. So it's also a successful product from that aspect of Microsoft kicking the vendors in the ass and them getting on board, which means consumers get better hardware. Now, I'm going to take this piece of the conversation, tie it back to the Surface RT, because I had one as well.
Right.
The Surface RT was not a traditional x86 or x64 processor. It was an ARM chip. It was a cell phone processor, right? And much like the conversation we had about Apple's M1 chip on a previous episode. And it wasn't that it wasn't a good performing device. The issue is there were no apps, because all the apps were coded for the old x86 infrastructure or architecture, and they weren't quoted for this new cell phone world. And that ultimately, Microsoft had the approach, build it and they would come, but they never came, right? That's where the Surface RT kind of suffered its fate. Some things have happened since then. Apple told Intel to go fuck themselves, made their own processors. And let's be clear here, this didn't come out of anywhere. Between Apple making this new M1 processor that they're putting in their new MacBooks and Mac Minis, Apple was out here killing the game with the iPads. Whatever the fuck processor was in these new iPhones and iPads were godlike out the gate. So much so that they weren't even... Like, even today, it's still a practical Apple. When you get the iPhone 12, there's nothing today that's fully going to take use of this processor. But where you sort of see the benefit is 2 and 3 years down the line, it's still going to be a crazy performer. Right? So, like, Apple's been, like, perfecting this ARM thing for a while. Then comes Microsoft. They're coming back to it again. It was like, yo, I think we can do it, because the lesson that they learned from before was emulation. If developers aren't willing to recode their entire app to have it run on ARM architecture, well, maybe your ARM processor is strong enough to emulate that app. That's where we are today. That's what the Surface X is. The issue with the Surface Pro X, there's that, and there's what Apple did. 2 totally different games. And I'm not talking benchmark numbers, right? So the Surface Pro X, and I this is my laptop, so I've been using it for about 2 weeks now. And I'm using it in a very professional, I'm an IT professional, so there's some very specific tools I'm using. There's some issues here, fam. There's still some apps that don't run, even though emulation exists. So the antivirus that I use to manage my environment doesn't install on the Surface Pro X. That's a problem. Photoshop, Lightroom doesn't install on the Surface Pro X. That's a problem. You get what I'm saying?
You see what I'm saying? Go
right,
ahead.
but there are other things that does, like Discord. Discord is no different of a X32. It's a X32. I'm sorry, X86 application. It's an old school application. You download it, you run the exe. It runs fine on the Surface Pro X.
Right.
So now we're still in this. You kind of figured it out, but like you still have the problems of the developers. They're still not coming to the water. And this is where, and this pains me to fucking say, because you've told me this thing's on your Christmas list. I'm going to have to point you away from this. You'd be better off buying the new M1 processor.
Right.
The Apple with the new M1, because developers are going to flock to whatever Apple does with their emulation, because with Apple's emulation also comes the they can take all of their iOS stuff and get it working on a huge value for them. Huge value. Now the Surface Pro X is super nice. It's a beautiful device. It feels amazing. The battery life is godlike. Not the numbers that people are reporting from the Apple, but I probably get like 12 or 13 hours. Like, I only charge my laptop battery once a day. And I can tell you, I am working on my laptops. So that's pretty good. It does mostly everything I ask of it. Mm-hmm. But it fails in this one aspect, which is why I can't recommend it to you. You know, as a homeowner, we're transitioning from an apartment to a house now. So we've got multiple floors, right?
Right.
You know, I've been banished to the basement. That's where the man cave is. That's where the router is. The cable modem, the gaming PC, all that stuff's in the basement. But there's an instance where, I just want to hang out in the backyard, the porch, or the living room, or in the bedrooms upstairs. Like, would I not be able to do? No, you need a laptop to do what the fuck you can do. And my laptop, much like what you asked in the beginning, was, it would be nice if I can copy the files over from this podcast episode and finish editing it on my laptop upstairs at my leisure.
Right.
It can't do that right now. And Apple can.
And that's in a nutshell where I was where the question kind of surfaced. No pun intended.
Yes.
Or pun intended. Is it a game changer? Now I can answer that. It's a game changer from a design standpoint. I think this design is remarkable.
It's beautiful.
It's super thin. It's thinner than the iPad is now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
The iPad Pro, Pro,
about as thin.
About as thin. It doesn't have the chamfered is rounded. Yes.
No, chamfered is a cut, like a straight angle.
Okay, so the iPad Pro is chamfered. This one is rounded.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's a different. It's a
different design philosophy.
Yeah, and this shit would probably fall out of my fucking hands if because my hands get slippery and moist and But I think the design is just awesome. I actually, who had it? Was it Best Buy? I don't remember. I thought I saw it, and I'm like, "Is that the new joint?"
Now,
and I was gonna. I didn't get a chance to go and actually pick it up, but
you'll love it.
Yeah, but when I said now, still not quite there yet. Like I said, it's not. I didn't say not. It's not there. I said still not quite where it needs to be.
Yeah. No,
you know what I'm saying?
You're right. And what I will say to that, right? I'm not saying the issues that I'm running into, most people won't. Right. I think when I first saw the review on this thing, The Verge hit the nail on the head when they said this is an executive's machine. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You get what I mean? Like, all of that stuff works amazing.
From your arm.
There's your email. There's your browser. There's no hiccups. None of that shit. You can run Spotify. I mean, Spotify is in the Windows Store. By the way, any app in the Windows Store you can run. Right? But even if Spotify wasn't it can still run the traditional EXE version of it. All that stuff works. There's some very specific creative ways. When you tell me this is a Surface, I expect it to work. Mm-hmm. But I got to remember, this is not a Surface Pro. right? The Surface Pro that's the boy that comes with the i7 or the i9 or whatever gigs of RAM. And this is kind of like, this experience is a lot less creative and more productive. So
this is the Surface Pro X.
The pen, well, X doesn't mean, X don't mean performance. That's an Apple thing.
Yeah, right. But it says it's the Surface Pro.
Well, I mean, you're right. They put the Pro moniker in there.
So
you're right. You know what? You're absolutely right.
That's what I'm inquiring.
It does what it does very well. However, there's a big caveat here for people like you and me, right? Because I know that whatever you buy, you're going to come to me 4 months later and be like, yo, son, you think I could edit video on this? Or, yo, can I run Photoshop on this? So right. I know that whatever you buy, even if you don't buy it with that intention, it needs to have the chops to do these things.
Right.
And to your point, the Surface Pro X is not here yet. It's not there yet for that. Now, if Adobe gets their shit together and puts, which has been rumored for months now, that Photoshop and Lightroom are going to be in the Windows Store, then you will get an optimized version of it. But today, it doesn't exist. And today, I can't tell you how that runs on the hardware because it doesn't exist. What I can tell you is over in the Apple world, there's a beta version of those applications that you can run on the M1, and people are fucking losing their mind how much better, not better, but how much normal it runs. You know what I mean? They get what they're expecting. So, I love this fucking thing. Like, it's in my, I leave, it's in my bag, I'm on the couch, the pen is nice and flat now, it's in the keyboard.
Yeah, I want my ecosystem to go back to what it was. Like, I feel like I have bitten into the forbidden fruit again. More pun, but
you know the value of an ecosystem now.
It's like in once you we're all Apple here. I hate to say it, but minus my PC. I have a MacBook Air. My wife has a MacBook Pro. I have the Apple TV 4K. I have an iPhone. She has an iPhone. I just got her the iPad Pro 12.9, and she has the keyboard to it. She has the pencil to it. We have it's like we drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And now it's tough. It's extremely tough to part ways.
Yeah.
With like I can't get the Surface Duo and it be my main phone. That is impossible. I cannot do it. Even though it runs Android, it's not going to happen. I cannot do it. I can get it and swap my SIM card every now and then, but that's not practical.
I totally get it.
Even if I was willing to spend the $1,500 for that Duo, it would be a total waste of money.
You're deep in the ecosystem and what we call the walled garden. So I just realized I misspoke, right? I would not lean you towards the MacBook Air with the 1M. Because the Surface Pro is more of a tablet. Right. Surface Pro X, right? Especially with the ARM architecture. I would challenge you and say you'd probably be better off buying an iPad Pro with a keyboard. And let me show you how crazy Apple is moving out here. And guys, there's so many of you that's watching this that's going to be up and down the spectrum. People who've been on this channel for 7 years are kind of looking at me like,
listen,
the
think
fuck
about the
is
people
he saying?
people who are legacy people, are people
Right.
who are day ones.
I do not like Apple. I did not like Apple. I'm not sure if I even like Apple. Right? And then there's people that's going to be like, yeah, what are you saying makes sense? Like, fam, this is a long road here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you got to give props where props are due. This is how Apple is moving. I can even redact that statement and say, fuck the iPad Pro. You'll be looking at the new iPad Air as a stronger comparison to this Surface Pro X. Because the new iPad Air is so fucking powerful. With all the features, which is the Magic Keyboard and the pen. Holy, what is happening here?
Yeah.
So it's hard to look at, outside of the business use, it's hard to look at something like the Surface Pro X and say that's a consumer device. And I'm saying this without, I mean, there are some Microsoft purists that really subscribe to us, and they could be like, well, Microsoft never said, they said it was for business. Like, I don't know how they're marketing it. I haven't really looked in a while.
Right.
This is a better use case for business for sure. I can still join it to a domain. I can manage the asset. All of this good stuff. Yes. Mm-hmm. But this is not a consumer device. Mm-mm. It looks like a consumer device because it's beautiful as fuck, but it's not. These caveats squarely omit this thing from being a consumer device. Not when you can go and pick up the middle of the road iPad and be limitless in your potential.
Yeah. It's I feel like for me, and maybe even you and us and Microsoft versus the world, it could be a bad place for an enthusiast like enthusiast like yourself and a fanboy like me, or maybe backwards, I don't know, whatever. To just walk into Microsoft like, yo, I went into the Microsoft store when I was at Garden State Plaza mall. And you go in there and you just, I was so wowed. I was just like, I need to buy something in here just to.
The stores are nice.
Worlds better than Apple, in my opinion.
The stores are nice. They got a nice selection of it's like a upscale Best Buy experience.
Yeah. But you when you walk in, and I was just like, damn, do I need another Xbox right now? Fuck it.
Yeah.
It make you walk in there and you feel like purchasing something. But I'm just like,
nothing here for me though.
It's nothing here for me. It's nothing here for me. I am so upset with Windows Phone.
Yep.
I am so upset.
I miss it.
Windows, son. It's a Windows Phone. What did I have? The 1520?
Yep, the
big
1520.
one. The 1520 is a functional device now.
It's nice. Camera and all.
What was it? The 1080,
1020.
1020? Son.
I think every now and then Pocket Now, you see Pocket Now Android Central. Every like 2 years they'll pull out the new iPhone and Pixel and benchmark it against the 1020, and the 1020 is still like, that's cool, fam, but we still here though. You know what I mean?
What do you, son?
Yep.
Son, these were phones that were ahead of their time.
Yeah.
Son, I can sit now. Listen. When you start getting into stretching out the picture to get into the fine details, it's like the you see certain aberrations.
Sure.
But son,
you posted on Instagram, it's still the same shit.
What?
Absolutely.
What? Son, I
Absolutely.
post something on Instagram from a 1520 Windows phone, and it's It's you couldn't tell the difference. But Apple or Google or whomever or OnePlus or whatever would have you believe that they're at the pinnacle of and this was being done 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, well, almost 10 years ago.
Yeah. You know, this is an interesting tidbit, right? An interview recently, somebody asked not Steve Jobs, somebody asked Bill Gates about the iPhone and like just about mobile in general. Like, how did you miss the boat? And he pretty much said something like he had trauma from what happened with the monopoly thing. Like how the government just like split them up. Mm-hmm. So somebody was like, Bill, this mobile thing's got legs. He was like, no, we're not going to court again. Yeah. Whoever runs with that, because at that time Microsoft was the pancake machine. Whatever they put money into, they're gonna own this now. Right. And he was just like, no, thank you. Yeah, y'all can get the fuck out with that.
Yeah, fucking PTSD.
Right. And by the time they figured out how to even like approach it safely, they was so far behind. You know what I mean? And it was like it didn't even matter at that point. And then like when they got on the reins, now we're looking at Windows Phone 8. You know what I mean? And then it's like, but you can't get nobody on board. And like it was just a sad fucking story.
It is.
And it was just like, damn, son.
Like it's so bad that I would love somebody, even if we could possibly make it happen somehow, to just do like a documentary on why.
There's a few out there. There's a few good ones on YouTube.
Yeah, like why Windows Phone in particular, with all of its greatness, son. Mango. Once Mango dropped, that was
Mango
it.
Mango had like 15 fucking game-changing features. You was just like, what the fuck is... I remember that night not sleeping.
Son.
I remember sending out the text to the group. Was like, yo, that Mango update is live. Nobody slept.
I want to say I was at work, B. I was at work. You sent the text, and you can't update your phone at work. Yep. You're disconnected, and you probably won't get back up. Son, I'm at work. I'm like, you're going ballistic, and you might have been you might have updated your phone at work.
Yeah, I think because I wanted to play with it at the fucking. I wanted to play with it on the train ride home.
And so you hit me and you like, son, the Mango, and you hit whoever else had the Mango, and I'm like, son, what? And so now as a user of a Windows Phone, you go to the settings and the update available, and you're like, son, now I can't wait to get home.
Gotta get the fuck up out of there.
I gotta get out of here. So in the features, as you were saying, the features was just so, son, Windows Phone. People really can't quantify how important and how powerful and how
they don't know
useful it is to everyone. Dude, I could just from the home screen, and I'm preaching to the choir here, but for all you out there who have no idea what we're talking about, you could open your phone on the home screen, what you saw on just by no app open, and get more information than you ever could from an iPhone.
Who tagged you in what? What text messages?
The widgets.
They weren't even widgets.
The widgets.
It was called live tiles.
Live tiles then.
Yo, there was shit, and this is fresh in my mind because I just did it. So iMessage comes through on the iPhone. You see it in your notification curtain. If you click and hold it, it pops up in its own view.
Yes.
So that was in Windows Phone first.
Yeah.
You can respond. Remember, the toast notification would come across the screen, and you click it. It wouldn't launch you into the text app.
It
Would
just
just drop down the keyboard so you can type in there send, and you didn't have to stop doing what you were doing.
That's
it was nuts. Somebody tagged you on Facebook. You don't need to launch a Facebook app. The Facebook tile would flip around. Such and such tagged you in this photo. The photo would then come up, and then like, all right, I know what's going on. If I want to respond, I'll tap it. If not, turn the phone back off. Like, it was just...
That's it.
It was wild. It was wild.
It was insane. Like, and it's so sad. It's just so sad and disheartening to see how far other companies have not gone.
Yeah.
And then see where Microsoft was at the point where they said, all right, it's time to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
However, but and even at the end, Mango was by definition what game changer means. Even when they went to where do we top out at? Was it 10 Windows Mobile 10?
I think so. I don't even remember, to be honest with you. I think they just stopped. They changed it from Windows Mobile to Windows Phone.
What? Not mobile. I meant 10.
Mango was Windows Phone 7.5, I think. Then there was an 8, and then they just changed it to Windows Phone. So I don't even remember.
Well, what I'm talking about is the software. So the last iteration of Windows Phone from a software perspective, it had gotten a little bit quirky. It was
the hardware. The hardware was what was quirky because the Lumias weren't reliable.
Right.
The 950s and them, they were having huge reliability issues.
So, but the software, it was like, you're thinking maybe 2015 was the last time I had the 1520, 2015. By that time, that was it.
Yeah.
From that point up until fast forward 5 years later, it's like Apple has cherry picked what they wanted from that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And we're going to take this, we're going to take that. But at a time when, so you thinking at that point, it was the iPhone 5, which was no bigger than a half-eaten Snicker bar. It was small. I used to call it the bitch phone because you was a bitch if you was a dude with an iPhone. A lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people wanted to fight me over that. Like, yo, my man, you ain't gonna call me a bitch. I said, I ain't calling you a bitch. I'm calling your phone a bitch. But if you want to fight, we can. So at work, son, it was like that. So here I come. I whip this 1520 out of my pocket, and I'm like, this is a man's phone.
Yeah.
This is a man. This is what men use.
There's quite a difference in sizes there.
Son, the 1520 is bigger than the iPhone 10. I'm sorry, the iPhone. Where are we at now?
The 12 Pro Max.
12? Son,
I think the screen, the surface display area might be the same finally.
Yes. But it's just like now you finally got it right.
Yeah.
5 years later.
One thing that I really missed that no one took was the idea of hubs.
Yeah.
So Windows Phone had this hub thing, like the messaging hub. So you would go set it up, and imagine a world where in your text message app you have iMessage. You sign into your iMessage, then you sign into your Skype, then you sign into your Twitter, then you sign into your Instagram, your Facebook, and any messages that comes from these apps, like WhatsApp, or they all go into this one app. You don't need to launch the Perspective app, and it'll show the person's name, and you very much like how BBM used to rock, right?
Yep. I was just thinking that BlackBerry,
and no one ever took that, and it was such an amazing experience for a user because you had this cohesive UI that you could trust and respond to your messages. And then they had the People's Hub where, again, all of these, your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, right? So in your People's Hub, whenever somebody would update their or tweet or update their Facebook or something, it would show up in the People's Hub. Because that's where you go to see what your people are doing. Like, come on, I'm walking here. Like, yo, this shit was just dope, son.
Yeah. Son.
It was just dope.
Somebody does it's Marquise. Marquise does if you're wondering, it's MKBHD. That's God level. That's where we would like to be, but it's on another day for another story. Marquise does dope tech. Like this, he does certain. Sometimes he does things from the past.
It's a good
and
series.
Usually he does things. Just you find dope tech and you speak about it. I think he should do. It's time to do a Windows Phone dope tech, and where he lands with.
You know what's interesting? You know what he does? He never shat on Windows Phone specifically. But he just did that interaction we had just now about the Surface Pro X.
Right.
Yo, this shit is nice. But,
Yeah,
you know what
he
I'm
does
saying?
that.
There's too many compromises here. Like, damn, fam. Everybody loved Windows Phone, son. It was hard to... And the story, of course, was the apps. They couldn't get the developers over there, but everybody loved Windows Phone, son.
Yeah. And I feel like how it could have been successful is for there to be some way to, however apps are coded for Apple, it's the same process for Windows. All you have to do is say, "Hey, this is for Windows."
Son, they did
and
that.
then let it go.
They had two versions of this this idea. Was developers could take their code from iOS or Android, and the engine, let's call it, would recompile it to work on Windows Phone. They still couldn't get motherfuckers on board, son. I think finally the Instagram and Facebook actually did that. So it was real Instagram. Like, it wasn't, six tag or whatever it was we were using back then.
Which was better. FYI.
It was way better. But yeah, son, Microsoft tried, Fav. They really tried.
Son, that is insane, man. That is insane.
Wow, what a trip down memory lane.
Yeah, we had to. You knew it was coming. We talking Microsoft and Surface Pro, Pro X, and it's that's all you could do is at the same time just sigh.
And move about your fucking life.
Yeah, man.
This continues to be a trend in my life where if I, you say enthusiast or fanboy, I think I am both. If I continue down that route, I'd be doing myself a disservice as a technologist, as a creative, and just as a person. You know what I mean? Like, you love what you love, but you don't want to be that old guy with the carburetor. Like, I can't find parts for my carburetor engine.
Yeah.
These kids with their fuel injection. Like, what are you really bitching about? Like, just get on with it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's crazy, but it is what it is. Move on, live on.
Yeah.
Anyway. Or live on, move on.
You guys know where to find these episodes on your DSPs, the Spotify, the iTunes of the world, lifestylesdefined.com/podcast. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and the list keeps growing. My name is Ramon.
It's Tawann.
We are out of here. Peace.